Welcome to Women in B2B Marketing, a show where CMOs, VPs of marketing, and all strong women leaders in B2B discuss their top tactics, strategies, and tips for building high-performing teams, leveraging trends, and ultimately rocking their marketing careers. Made by and for women, insightful for all. I'm your host and 15-year B2B marketer, Jane Serra. Let's dive in. Okay. Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Women in B2B Marketing. We have with us today Katie Berg, who is the VP of Marketing at Klue, and we are going to dive in all the way deep into owned media today. I'm super pumped. So thanks for joining us today, Katie.
I'm so stoked to be here.
Yay.
Yay.
So background, I met Katie last year at the GTM 24 from Pavilion and loved her right away. And I've been following her on LinkedIn ever since. And I've seen a few posts recently that she's shared about launching the Compete Network at Klue, which is their owned media hub. And we were talking about what to call this, right? Like media hub, channel, station, not sure. So I want to dive all into this. But first, we always start, and you have an interesting background. We always start with, what was your first job in marketing? And I did see some fun facts about you in doing my LinkedIn stalking that you did a ton of awesome work globally, right?
Yeah.
Like anyway, you tell us about how you started out in this journey to be marketing.
Oh, Lord. It certainly wasn't intentional. That's for sure. So right out of school, went immediately into marketing. So I went to business school. Marketing, the creative and the analytics sort of side of it was 100% my jam, starting in events marketing. And then you're right, I worked at an agency for a minute, and then I moved to Zambia for 2 years, and I worked for, cool. Random, I worked for a nonprofit that was in the impact investment, social enterprise space.
Oh, cool. How did that happen? How did you get into that?
Oh my God. It's so many random things that kind of happened one after the other. So in university, I took this Middle Eastern African Studies course and was learning about the history of Middle East and Africa. And this professor walked into the class and said, "Hey, I'm doing an 8-week course on ethnomusicology, and it's going to be traveling across Ghana. And ethnomusicology is the study of culture and music." And this was an elective. This had nothing to do with my schooling, but it was enough credits that I could graduate from my business degree. So I was like, let's do this. So I graduated from business school, essentially in Ghana, traveling the country.
Wow.
Yeah. Learning how music and culture connect. And I grew up in the most suburb, the epitome of a bubble. And this is essentially blew my brains open. And I was like, there's a world out here and it's so different.
Yes.
So
I love that. I love that you said yes to that opportunity just to see what's out there just as you're starting your career, right? Perfect timing. Love that.
And you know what was interesting? The reason I did that was because at that time, there were a lot of things in the news about things happening in the Middle East. And I was like, I don't feel like I even understand all these different countries and who is what and what is different. And how am I going to enter the world and not understand this? Let me take this course. So one thing led to another, and I took this. So I went to Ghana for 8 weeks, blew my hair back, and I came back and was living in Edmonton, Alberta, which is where I grew up, and working at an events company in a marketing position, and was just having this internal existential crisis. I just saw that the world is so big, and now I'm right back to where I've lived, and I can fully see my life and the whole sort of life cycle of my life here. And it just felt that can't be, there's something more for me. I need to keep exploring this. And so I got really interested in the social enterprise space and impact investment and sort of the idea of working in emerging markets. And so I had applied to work for Engineers Without Borders Canada. They had a team that was focused on business and developing businesses. I randomly took this job. I didn't know what I would be doing. I had no details about anything. I quit my job, and then I told my parents.
So I accepted the job. They were no. Wow.
Yeah, accepted the job, took the job, quit my current job in Edmonton, sold all my stuff, and lived in Zambia for 2 years. And I was actually So I was working for an agricultural company and doing marketing. Like I was doing marketing work by choice. There was like a lot of different stuff that I could do there, but I was just, again, drawn to market research. And we had to rebrand a company, an agricultural company that had been working with 250,000 smallholder farmers for 3 decades. So the idea of rebranding a company where there exists so much loyalty and also like really limited channels for communication, where trust was also really important, was like a really interesting project. So I worked on that. And then we worked on a bunch of like research and innovation projects and stuff, and just a bunch of marketing things. But probably what I loved most about living there was being surrounded by people from all over the world. Very similar to working in tech, right? Being surrounded by people from all over the world, all super driven, super intelligent, all doing really creative things. Like every sort of event you went to, you were meeting people who were just doing the most interesting stuff. And I loved it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
It was great. So when I moved, I ended up moving back home eventually. And I found my way to Vancouver because I was like, well, if I'm going to live in Canada, I think weather-wise, this will be the only place I can make a go. And I'd met my partner. He was actually from Victoria, and I met him while we were living in Zambia.
Wow.
Yeah.
How cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. And was he from Canada too originally, or?
Yeah, he was from Victoria. Him and his best friend also took a role with my organization, and they ended up moving onto my living room floor. And we've been together for 10 years.
So cool how the world works. Like everyone, you got to say yes to some things and just follow your gut. And it takes you places to just blow your mind open, expose you to new things, and maybe meet your future partner.
Yeah, exactly that. And that's been like I'm not sure about you, but my whole ethos to like my career has always been say yes to new experiences, say yes to anything that's going to develop your skills, and worry about like the money and the titles. Trust that those will come. Trust that will happen if I focus on my skills and I focus on really getting the best experiences possible. And I think it's working for me so far. It's brought me through a really cool path.
Yes.
Yeah. So I landed in Vancouver. I'm like, what am I going to do here? What in the world am I going to do? And how am I going to translate this working in Zambia experience into a Canadian role? This is going to be really difficult because people won't understand it. And I was right. They did not understand it. And I've been through like hiring processes with some major tech companies in Vancouver that all turned me down. I don't think I even made it past the screen at the time. And then I found this role at Klue. And I was looking to work in tech because I think if there's any industry like in Canada and North America that's going to have the same sort of driven, ambitious, creative people, I just bet it will be that.
So true. I love that. What's interesting is my first thought when I saw that on your LinkedIn was that is such a good hook. If I saw your resume on like a pile that I was looking at, I would want to talk to you because that's so interesting. It makes you stand out from everybody else, right? I just think in LinkedIn posts now, right? Like hook. So if you started out with that, yes, I want to talk to you. So it's interesting that it didn't translate so well back then, but
maybe it's all about how you market it. And I probably wasn't marketing it the right way. Like the interesting thing about working there too is it's really similar to a startup. Things where we had to be scrappy about how we got work done. Not everything would go according to plan. Like it involved a lot of creativity and a lot of the life lessons that I've learned that I think have made me capable of doing my job or of actually maybe being a better leader that has some like life perspective and experiences. I think came from that. Yeah.
Yes. It's just what you said, just it blowing your mind a bit and showing you that there's so much more out there. Instant growth, in my opinion, as a person, which translates to leadership and being more empathetic and understanding and just knowing that so much more exists. So love that. Very cool. Thanks for sharing your journey with us. Yeah. It's so interesting. And we will talk about so much on the episode, but I definitely want to hone in on owned media. So one post that I saw you share recently, I'm going to read it, is you had 150 subscribers before a single episode was released and 80,000 impressions across 2 teasers and an announcement post for the Compete Network. So, wow. How? Tell us how you got there. And let's dive in. I have so many questions.
That kind of moment happened recently because we were launching a new show, and that show was called Ready to Launch. And it's a really awesome one made by a couple of really awesome product marketing leaders, Jason Oakley and Tamara Grominski and Andy McCotter-Bicknell. They do teardowns of different product launches, and they all bring different ones to the table and talk them through. And it's like a really conversational, kind of cool and creative format. And when we were creating this show, the promotion for it was really like the culmination of what I would say is 2 years of learning things the hard way from where we started in owned media. And maybe it makes sense to go back and give some of the learnings on what kind of started it all off in the first place and what some of the tough lessons have been. And then we can like land on how did we get to this launch that did really well in the last couple of weeks. Yeah.
Okay. Rewind.
Okay.
And then we'll get to how you got to these amazing numbers. So starting and launching the Compete Network.
Yeah.
How did you first decide that you even wanted to create this and why?
Cool. It was a few years ago, and the product marketing
Which is way above the curve, by the way. Kudos to you.
We didn't know what it was. That's why it was funny. You and I were talking about, do you call this like an owned media network? Like, what do you call this? And I was like, I don't know what we called it because we didn't really have a name for it at the beginning. It was just like a concept that came to me on a run one day, which like reminds me about why I need to exercise more right now. But
ideas. Yes.
Right? Only for the creative ideas. So anyway, so we're in this space, this product marketing space. That's who we're selling to. And this, the field of product marketing, since I started at Klue, went from like really almost existent to really blowing up in a really short period of time. And what happened from when I started working at Klue, it was crickets, almost one community, to 2-3 years later, there are multiple 3-4 communities in the space. There are various thought leaders. This was the time of everyone sort of launching podcasts, or like the early beginnings of that, and lots of different newsletters, all this stuff. And I felt just like this weird feeling of, what does it feel like as a marketer working for Klue, working for a company where we're trying to grow awareness of what we do and we're trying to get in front of product marketers? It feels like we're fighting for attention, but we're fighting for, and that's fine to do against vendors, but I feel like it's like coming from all angles right now. And something feels weird about that to me. Like it feels too difficult. There's thought leaders out there. There's other vendors, there's communities, there's all this kind of stuff. And it feels like for our audience, this was the ultimate problem I came to and defined. It feels like for our audience, trying to like keep up with all of this content must be so difficult. And for people that are really trying to learn about their craft and how to elevate in product marketing and like where they can go to get the best resources, it would be a part-time job to try to keep up with all the LinkedIn content, keep up with the podcast, keep up with the events, keep up with everything. And so I was like, something in here, I don't know, I have this personal ethos now that anytime things feel too difficult, it's because you're not doing something right. There's an opportunity here. So what is it? And so I came up with this concept of, again, I don't know what it's called, but we'll call it the Compete Network because like we work in the field of competitive intelligence, where I have this concept where we can become the Netflix of Compete. Where imagine a world where like we could actually bring together all of this content into one space to provide value to our audience in acting as that home.
Yes.
Make it easier for them. Some of the value that I've envisioned was like, we act as this home. This becomes the number one place to go to for all of the best content. And the difference between how I thought we could do this with how maybe others were approaching it at the time was there were a lot of thought leaders creating really great content, but often in community, for that to reach an audience, that content would be owned by the community, if that makes sense. And so I was like, I see this world of thought leadership and influencer. This is changing, and people deserve and should have ownership of their own content. If you're running a podcast, it just made sense to me to say, bring your podcast onto the site. It's your podcast. You own this content. You pull it off if you don't want to. Maybe you benefit from like us driving all this traffic to this one site to promote all the various shows in the space. Maybe we cross promote within all of the shows that want to be a part of this network, each other's content to the benefit of everyone. And ultimately, we're trying to grow the audience here. We're trying to grow that, but I'm not trying to monetize. I'm not trying to monetize off you. You own that.
Yeah. So interesting. So I really could unpack this for in so many different directions. One, when you first, because this was a few years ago, you're saying, right? When you first thought of this, did you do it like super scrappy to begin with and you're on your own site building it out? Or I think you work with Audience Plus, right? Is that correct?
No, we don't.
Okay,
We don't work with Audience Plus yet. They're building some, actually, I believe, integration with WordPress so it can work with our site, because to your point, there was nothing. So we built our whole architecture for everything on our own, and super scrappy, with our own marketing team. And in the matter of, I want to say a month, I put together a pitch deck that said, imagine this sort of Netflix of Compete. Imagine we are creating content. Some of it is like original series content. We're going to pull together all the best content from other like people in this space. This is going to be the number one place to go. We're going to do events, content, community. We're going to do all sorts of stuff. The brand vibe is going to be, I think at the time I was like, brand vibes like Red Bull, and like quality of content of an HBO or a Vice or an HBR, like Harvard Business Review. And I had this sort of slide that helped to set the tone of what do we want this to feel like? And then I pitched every single creator that was already running a show or a newsletter or a course or any sort of resource. So that's maybe where our approach to owned media is a bit different than just being video only, because it's like all media. So I pitched every single creator. They got them all bought in. We built the site. At the same time, we started producing 4 new podcasts. I said, we've got like a bench of people at Klue that are really talented. Let's spin up a bunch of new media around them. So we launched the site, the whole network, and then 4 podcasts on the same day.
Wow. And so to get to this content, do they have to go to your site then? They have to go to this website?
So 2 options. For any of these individual thought leaders that are creating their own podcast, they might have their own website for it. V1, we linked to whatever they had. So it was just, you could go and find all of it in one place, and it would link to wherever they were actually hosting their content. Now we've created pages, like dedicated pages. So if you have a show that's on the Compete Network, we'll have all the episodes available within the website. It will also link to Spotify, but it's like, we wanted it to be, our V2 was, we wanted it all to be bingeable in one spot, not just accessible from.
Cool. So V1, it linked out to all of the creators and their content. So that's an easy buy-in for them, because it's more juice going to flooding and directing to audience to their sites. And V2, was it like on whatever podcast platforms they had, YouTube, wherever they owned it, and also like just also on yours, but trying to keep people inside the hub, for lack of a better word right now, keeping it in there. Okay.
Yeah. And
Very
totally,
cool.
again, for people who are creating their own content, everything is like optional, right? You opt in to what do you want? Do you want us to build a page for you, or do you want us to keep directing? It's like, I just really believe in creators like having that ownership and it being their call. We're just trying to find ways that we can make this work for everyone. So also early days, V1, V2, we have all these new podcast shows. We have our own flagship show that's getting 3,000 downloads per episode. We're promoting other shows on the network on that show every week that we're releasing it.
So cool.
Yeah.
And instantly this strengthens your relationship with all of these influencers and other creators. So the benefit to them is that it's directing a ton of audience to their various content channels. Do you also have like payment plans with them, or whatever you're willing to share? And you don't have to get into details.
No, I'm totally cool with sharing. So one of the pains that we found early days in talking to different people, and you would know this because you're a creator, so you know that there's like a lot of work that goes into the non-conversation part of that role. There's coordinating the editing, or there's the branding of your show as a whole. There's social clips. That's a job. And maybe often with the people we were talking to, that's like not their favorite part of the job.
Yeah. Most of the time, I feel like that's the case. It's like, how can I automate this or get it off my plate? Yes.
Yeah. So what we started offering for certain people was like in kind. So we will produce your show for you. So we'll do all the coordination of guests. We'll do the editing. We'll do the clipping for shows like Ready for Launch. That's like an original series that we're doing. And actually, I think for just some other people on the network, we did branding of their shows for them. Like we have a
Wow.
very strong brand team. That's like a huge value add. And so what we've been focused more on, and even I think this relates to the way we're looking at influencer marketing right now, is we're giving thousands of dollars in value between my time, our content leaders' time, our show creative sort of directors' time, and then our brand team, and then editing and all this sort of stuff. There's like actually there's a cost to all of that. But
Yeah.
we think that there's like a mutual value in co-creating these shows, co-promoting these shows. And so to me, payment for us comes in the form of like the in-kind production, the administration, the like getting your
Yeah.
ad placed onto all the other shows that are on this network and like being a part of that whole thing. So I think it only works out if you're taking the approach of really truly trying to deliver value to a creator and
Yeah.
like sharing and talking about how you're trying to do that. But yeah, our approach very early days was like give as much as we can, prove value, and trust that in time after proving value, you'll be able to grow from there and figure things out.
I love that. This is already, I have so many nuggets and the gears are turning, right? So you touched on this a little bit, but what were your goals? Like you had this aha moment and okay. And I love what you said too. Like when you see something that's difficult, you see an opportunity. It's like chaos equals opportunity, right? That's what I'm taking from that. So true.
Mm-hmm.
So you saw this opportunity, you created it. What were your ultimate goals as a brand, right? As a company, there has to be some kind of measurement or a goal that you're tracking for it.
Yeah. So, you know, the saying that's like the category leader gets 75% of the market share and everyone else battles
Yeah.
for that 25%.
Yes.
Yeah. Like that was our goal. Our goal was, I believe that by owning and really nailing it as the category leader in our space, being the go-to place where like all of the best thought leaders are working with Klue, where we are producing the best content. There's like a combination of, I don't know, like brand may be involved in that, but our goal was like really simple category ownership. And then secondary to that was also connected maybe more tactically to some of the trends that you're probably seeing happening in marketing right now, like the move towards losing third-party cookies, the move towards algorithms really favoring people over company brands, the need to really own access to your audience, communities being super expensive to engage with, events and getting a booth at an event, having sort of not much of like brand value sometimes. And so we were looking for ways of like, how do we really own the market? And it felt like it was really connecting the dots through a lot of the like strategic things and programs we were thinking about. Community being like a really important lever for that flywheel growth that we're looking for. It was, I don't know, somehow was connecting all the dots to me. This media network that you spin a community out of, that you spin events, virtual and in person out of, all of a sudden now we have a brand that's leading the category. We have a community that's going to start spinning its own flywheel growth and value to other members. We start running events, virtual and in person, to make those connections and relationships with our buyers.
Wow.
All of that, I think, provides resilience to a lot of the AI disruption that's going to happen in the coming years, where it gets harder to stand out. Differentiation is incredibly difficult. Access to audience gets really difficult. And the relationships and doing things in a human, authentic way and leaning on brand become more and more important.
Love that. It's 3 years ago. You saw everything that's happening now in 2024. It was starting to back then, but you had a crystal ball and you were like, this is what it's going to be in 3-4 years. So let's get ahead of it now. It's just so cool how you thought you saw all of these trends as they were just starting to happen and found something that kind of tied all of it together. So cool. Kudos to you.
I wish that I could say that was all super intentional. I don't know.
It worked out.
It worked.
I love it.
It worked out. Yeah.
And you,
and have we nailed it? For sure not. We launched something. We've had lots of learnings on the way. And this is where I guess some of the learnings I would have that might be useful for your audience to share, of like things that have worked and things that haven't, if that's.
Yes. Let's dive in.
Okay, let's dive in. So things I would do again, I think the concept I'm still super aligned with. Doing it scrappy, like not overpaying for like big web development projects or like working with big media agencies for content production. I really believe in try to do something scrappy by yourself and prove the value before you
Proof of
start
concept.
overspending.
Mm-hmm.
Is that sort of similar ethos to you?
Oh, for sure. I think it's so important to have a proof of concept. It's like ABM, right? Like you don't need to buy the platform right off the bat. You want to get a strategy, test it out, scrappy, and then expand with the platform.
Exactly that. Yeah, that's such a good analogy because it's even just saying we're going to do owned media. It's like I don't know. It doesn't mean anything yet until you're testing and proving that creating different forms of content work for your audience. So ours started even previous to the Compete Network. We had been running a podcast for 2 years, week over week, terrible episode after terrible episode, terrible social clips after terrible social clip with just this, like, all we did have was discipline in tearing down our own work and trying to learn week over week. Oh, these questions we asked, it was like a weird flow. Let's fix that next time. Oh,
well, that's good. At least self-reflection.
That's all. I just have this like really big belief that if all you're doing is like learning every single time, every single cycle, you'll get better over time. It doesn't have to be that good to start. And that's what we did for the podcast. And so through that, we learned how to actually host a good show, at least better than we started, right? How to social clip a show, how to promote on social, how to work with guests to get them to promote on social. Your prep, just like you did with me today, it's what are your prep that you're sending to someone who's going to be on your show so you can get the best content out of it. You like work out all these kinks with one, you do it yourself, you edit yourself until you can tell what you need someone else to do, and then can bring a scrappy contractor here and there. And the same sort of went with this whole network. So I would keep it by going the scrappy way, the way that we proved value quarter over quarter. Truthfully, was like people at our company had a sense that we were owning and winning the market through this. So this goal of owning the category, people were sharing clips from Gong all the time. Oh my God, people are saying they love the Compete Network. That's why they're choosing us. They're like giving qualitative feedback that's helping to reinforce the idea. We would screenshot it all and I would include it in our board report.
Oh, I love that. It's like on the ground feedback, qualitative. That's gold. Love it.
This is another belief I've had, and I'm curious your take, but I always believe that when you're making good content, you'll hear about it.
Yeah.
You'll hear about it from your reps. They're going to share feedback from the field. You're going to hear about it. And when you're not making good content, it will be crickets.
Yes. So true. And it goes back to Chris Walker, right? We've done this way before Chris Walker too, but how did you hear about us on a forum? Like people mention the show, the content, and yes, for sure on sales calls. Cause sometimes in a forum, people will be like NA or put in whatever, just to get through the forum. But on the sales call, they'll actually mention it when it's human to human interaction. So that's for sure. You'll hear it. Sometimes I'm very big on measuring and analytics.
Yep.
But also this matters, like what you hear on the ground, like sentiment from the sales team and CS and all across the board, what you're seeing, if you're getting mentions and tags on social, all of that matters so much and can tell you a lot more sometimes than attribution, which has its flaws.
Yeah, it's interesting. Attribution has its flaws. It's super important and like a fundamental part of running your marketing program. But if you ignore brand, and you ignore taking risks and doing some of this creative stuff, you're going to always be caught in this lead gen demand creation trap. And I really think that brand floats everything. Like a really strong brand increases your deal velocity, increases your win rate, increases everything, right? And it's hard to actually attribute that sometimes.
So hard. Yeah. I love this. So far you would keep the proof of concept starting out scrappy. Yep. What else would you keep?
Yeah, I would keep that approach. So I would keep probably trying to nail one thing at a time. When we launched 4 podcasts at once, because I thought this was a good idea.
I'm already like getting a headache through that sentence alone.
I don't need to tell you how that went. You know how that went.
Like, spread yourself too thin, folks.
Exactly. Good lessons in terms of learning. Now you need an operating system to be able to produce like a production calendar, production process to produce that kind of velocity of content, which like
Yeah.
we're able to do now. Actually, we're probably doing a similar number of shows now, but that thinking more about the strategy of our shows, which is cool. You end up being like an executive, like a media executive, and you're looking at a map of who's the audience that we want to target at what level, right? Are we talking about PMM or like an executive, or who exactly, what level, exactly who are we talking about wanting to target? And then what's the format? Because there's a lot of room to get creative with the format of your content.
Yes.
And early days, we just did a bunch of interview based podcasts. And then all of a sudden you have multiple of those going. And that's a commitment.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So you have to really be thoughtful about understanding if you're fully buying into that commitment of like regular guest hosts or guests on your show versus point in time, limited series with a topic to cover, maybe that goes beginning to end. There's all sorts of formats of podcasts. There's all sorts of formats of things. And Ready for Launch is a good example. That's not a show that relies on having guests. That's a show that's conversational in format, meant to be a group of people you get to know over time. And they bring different product launches to the show. So they're driving the topic matter. It's probably a little bit easier of a lift to produce continuously, just different challenges with it. So anyway, so like format, I would think about, and then creator and who you choose, I think is super important. So you can go down this trap of saying, let's work with people who have a big audience, and then have learnings that like these people also need to be great content creators and great, especially if you're doing video or podcast format. Someone who's really strong written does not mean that they're going to be a great host of a show or have a natural ability to interview. That's a skill that, like, for you, that's a skill that you've honed.
Appreciate it. Have you had to, I don't even know the word to use because I don't want to say fire, but have you had to pivot and change different hosts based on realizing that, like, you've learned the hard way? Well, she's nodding for the listeners. Slow nod.
So what we've built into our process is we run shows for a limited period of time, and then we'll do a review. So on a quarterly basis, we'll run a season for a certain number of episodes. It might be 8 or 10. And then we'll do a review.
Wow. This really is like running a media company. Yeah. And it's like waiting. Oh, is the show going to get renewed? Do you have people waiting to hear if they're getting renewed or not?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And sometimes we've created shows where our audience, it was connected to our go-to-market strategy as a company, which is cool. So we're connecting some of the new personas we want to target and creating shows that are going to help to reach that audience, which I love that through line of connecting our go-to-market strategy to our media production. Yeah. But so as our go-to-market strategy has changed, sometimes that's also changed what shows we want to keep investing in or not.
That makes sense. Yeah. Do you keep the previous series that have been sunsetted? Do you keep those on? And have any ever made a revival? Like some past recordings all of a sudden get like a ton of listeners or viewers?
Well, I think some could. We haven't been doing this for so long, but I think that some have the potential. Some are really good shows. And actually what we didn't nail was our own distribution and promotion of them. We did actually a really good show. It's called Blind Spots, and it's with our VP of Win-Loss. His name's Ryan Sorley. And it's all about talking to go-to-market leaders about how they used like buyer insights to get an aha moment that changed their business. And the concept to me is like really cool. Stories about bringing in those really critical insights directly from your buyers and sharing the stories about those aha moments and how it impacted a company. And what we didn't have nailed at the time, because this was in the time of producing 4 at once, was a way to launch a show that's going to like really nail it in terms of growing a big audience and maintaining a cadence of production. So on that one, it's like we did a couple episodes, dropped off. It took too many weeks to do another one. And all of a sudden you're like creating this really unideal audience experience. That, I'm sure this is totally the consistency is critical.
Yep.
Yeah. And also
it does sound like a good show.
I know. So there are shows that I'm like, I think some of these could have a resurgence. And at a different point, we could revisit and say, I think we have the knowledge now that would allow us to nail it.
Yeah. It's almost like I'm thinking I go back to TV. Right? What shows had a resurgence lately? I feel like that's a big trend, or at least a couple of years ago, like Fuller House and what were like How I Met Your Mother is How I Met Your Father, right? All of these kind of twists and part twos and Where Are They Now? I feel like you could totally do that with some of your OG content.
That's interesting. Or even, this is a content idea someone else could take, but I think nostalgia, why does nostalgia play so much?
So well. It's always a winning move. Yeah. I think since it was huge in the pandemic, I think it gave everyone like those feels for like back in the good days before we had to wear masks and not talk to people. And it just stuck. Maybe it's been around forever, but it really felt huge during the pandemic. And I feel like it's stuck since then.
That's so fascinating. It's like a comfort to these.
Yes.
The stuff we used to. So I bet that there's like a whole world of content you could create, taking inspiration from the content we grew up with, or like stuff that might be a bit more nostalgic, and trying to refresh it for today. Also, like the most interesting marketing to me is when you're taking what's working in B2C and what's working like beyond B2B marketing and trying to bring it into our world and be different about it.
That's so true.
You know what the world needs? Here's a super hot idea that came onto my mind last week. Chicken Shop Date.
No.
Do you know that video series? It's a YouTube series.
No, but I will after this.
Okay. There's a host and she just goes on dates with mostly like musicians and artists that are in maybe hip hop. And they go to a chicken shop and it's like a joke. Like it's like a satire interview. Yes. Have you heard of Bobby
link to it. Yes. Okay. I just recently learned about her, where she interviews like Drake in bed and stuff, but she's advanced and she no longer does it in her bed, right? Okay.
Yeah. And that's like a bit too, right? Like she plays a character in how she interviews. And Z-Way's another interviewer who does like a similar. She tries to put her guests in really uncomfortable scenarios. It's like kind of funny. So I feel like there's an opportunity for someone to take that style of interview, which is like, you're acting in a character form. It's, what's the word? I don't know what the right word is, but it's like a bit in and of itself, and try to create something interesting like that for B2B.
This feels very like Tim Davidson and Tom Closer, right? Like how they do like character acting, and like they put on, like Tim doesn't actually, I'm sure, like cut fruit when he's not on camera, but like he doesn't wear a Bob Ross wig, but he puts on this persona. There's a certain type of acting that it's called, or a certain type of comedy. Anyway, but
I know the word you mean.
I wish I could pull that up. What's the word?
I don't know.
It's physical comedy or method acting, or there's a term for it, but it's probably neither of those. If anyone knows, let me know, DM me. But they're so good at that. And I love being able to like, you put on a person. I'm just always me. I don't know how to act. I can't be like a different person, but whoever can do that, like, kudos. Love that for you.
Agreed. Some people are
do
like,
we have any women doing this kind of style? I don't really know any women doing that.
In B2B or just in?
Yeah, in B2B.
I don't think so.
No one does character acting. Is it character acting? I don't know. Something.
I don't think it is, but I can't think of the right word.
Yeah.
But no, first of all, a couple of comments on that.
Yeah.
More women should just create. Yeah. Period. Because when I look out in the world, it's not, what I see is an imbalance in assumed confidence or something, that their voice matters or is interesting, or there's something different that I just noticed there's fewer women that put their hand up to think I have something to say, like myself included, right? I'm like coming onto this podcast with you being like, please don't ask me too hard of questions. I don't know what I'm doing.
Meanwhile, you've dropped gold. This is exactly why I created the show, because I do think I need data to back this up, but it does feel like women hesitate more. We pause and we're like, do I know enough? Should I be like put myself out there? And men typically tend to just go for it. Fuck it. Let me try. Yeah, I'll be on. What do I need to do? I need to wear a wig. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And I feel like we get in our own way, and we like,
That's what it is. Because I don't think it's a negative thing. It's not like a negative thing about men. It's more just we all need a little bit more like fuck it energy.
Yes. Yes. Fuck it energy. I need that sticker. Hashtag fuck it energy. That's a new sticker for our laptops. I'm going to create those.
I want one.
I love it. It's so true though. We need to just put ourselves out there more and do more. It doesn't have to be comedy all. We don't have to be cutting fruit. We don't have to follow Tim, but we can create our own ways of getting out there for sure. I love that. Because
you've also seen, and you probably see this firsthand, but I see like a lot of positivity on social, especially in B2B marketing. Yes. I see a lot of positive celebration, support of people who are trying new things. That's why I think also like some of our promotion of new shows have landed. Why? Because like people just love, maybe it's a tech thing too. We just love to build and create and share what we're building.
That's so true.
It just gives us all energy. There's probably a lot warmer reception we'd all get than anyone would expect when you're sitting there thinking, I don't know, maybe I don't know what I'm talking about, or maybe I'd be no good at this. I think you'd get warmer reception. And every time I've taken a risk, like even when we launched the Compete Network, I remember vividly feeling like I've never been so nervous to put something out into the world before. I really don't know what this is or what sort of reception it will get. I've never felt so nervous and scared. And it was the day that we like launched it and we had all of our creators share on social, and we shared sort of the vision of what we were doing. And we got so much positive reception. I was getting DMs all day from people that I never heard from. And I was like, oh,
best feeling ever.
Best feeling. Yeah.
That's so cool. When you first launched, were you hosting? Were you on camera and on mic for a lot of these things? Or were you just like producer behind it?
Yeah, I like to be behind the scenes. I was just trying to create and share a bit of a face for the network as a whole, not just individual shows. So if you subscribe to stay up to date on it, you would get an email from me. If you came to the website, there was a message originally that was like from me sharing sort of the vision for it. So I was trying to have some touch points there's like a human and a full team behind what we're creating here. But I wasn't on any shows.
Yeah. But I'm getting a million questions. But one, what would you say is your current breakdown? We were talking about like the male-female ratio for content creators, right? Again, wish there were stats on this. But do you know like a rough breakdown of the content in your hub? Should we make this an open call for product marketing content for women creators to get in touch with Katie?
If you have a show concept, something that you would like to produce, I would love to hear from you. This has been one that we talk about this all the time. And we're constantly looking at what's the lineup across all of our shows. I don't know what our breakdown would be. I know we've been intentional to really invest in some shows specifically that are like women led, but it won't be balanced. Like without looking, I can just tell you because it's totally a challenge. Yeah. But it's so really just a matter of people putting up their hands. That's how like Ready for Launch came to be. We were talking with Andy and Tamara for many months about just like spinning ideas with each other. What about something like this? Or what about this show concept? And so it came together over the course of months, but we actually worked together. They didn't come to the table with an idea. We said, hey, maybe we should do something.
Yeah. If anyone has an idea, contact Katie. And it's great that that's top of mind, at least. I think this is a problem everywhere, but that in general, like some people just tend to not even think about that. Oh, this is a great idea. Let's run with it. Let's run with it. And then before it's all white dudes. Awesome.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
They put their hands up and you were just great. Love the energy. Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, we have no diversity, gender, race, other perspectives, and then you're like, no, what have we done? Yeah.
Yes. So it's good. That's already like you're being intentional and strategic about those. So kudos to you and team. Okay, I want to cover a couple more things if you have the time. Number one, we mentioned that I think it was your most recent launch of a show, right? That you had subscribers before the episodes were launched and tons of impressions just with the teasers. So from all of the lessons you learned, how did you get to that successful launch? Is that your most successful show launch to date?
Yeah, I think so. We invested a lot of effort into media for like teaser assets.
Yeah.
This is wild. Our like teaser post before our Series B or something funding announcement got more impressions than our announcement itself. Like people,
Wow.
we've tested this so many times. People love teasers. That's what I've learned. They
So
love a teaser.
fascinating.
Yeah.
Wow.
So we had a countdown clock that showed like elements of the new branding of the show without showing the whole thing. And each creator got their own that showed like a bit of their face, but not their whole face on this new sort of brand mock-up for their show.
Love it.
They posted that on social. We posted it on social. So like people in the space knew something was coming and that we were all working together, but not what it was. Yeah. And we got so much engagement, and kudos to them because they really were like great advocates for their own show that we were producing with them. So that worked. Cool. We also have learned treat like a show when you're launching a new season of it. Just a movie is going to do promo for a movie. So you're like for their actors. So you're trying to get creators onto other shows and onto other podcasts. We did this with one of our shows, Winning as Women, where it's talking about sales leadership from like a female perspective. And so we got her onto a ton of sales related podcasts leading up to and during the launch of her season, which I think is like really smart, get some great cross promotion. And then we utilized newsletters, both ourselves and our creators, and obviously email that we can use. And in the future, I don't know if you've tested this yet, but the LinkedIn like thought leadership ads that you can run that don't rely on being an employee. It might be interesting to test that.
I'm so excited for that. I just saw that's coming. That's going to be huge for B2B influencers. Good move, LinkedIn.
Yes, right? So cool. Smart, LinkedIn.
Very cool. So when you're talking about this and treating it like a movie with the trailer that gets people pumped and get a kind of a press, what do they call that? Like a press tour. So they're like the people who are involved are getting them on podcasts and other shows to start talking about it. How do you manage owning all of this and everything else that comes with being a VP marketing? Because I feel like everything that you're doing right now at Klue and just for the Compete Network sounds like its own position. How do you do it?
It's interesting you say that because I don't disagree. And I think, you know how you can find energy for the things that just you're interested in? It's a little bit like that. Yeah, it like fires me up. It's also not me doing a lot of the work. So we have Adam McQueen, who's our head of content and community, and then Grayson, who does a lot of the video production and creative direction. But we have a team that's working on it, but really small and scrappy. And so we'll work with creators as well. And in the future, I would love to coordinate like the full sort of podcast press tour. At this point, it's mostly been a like, hey, this is something we should do. How do we help you execute it? But it's not all being led by us. But I could see a world where I could see a world, Jane, where we're doing premieres that are connected to events.
Yes.
And we're doing a launch of a show and we're going to host a social sort of event around it, invite all the people in the space. Maybe it's connected to an industry event that's already happening. I don't even know.
So
but it's
true.
Like, I could see that be fun too, as something to go.
Yeah. And you have the audience. They'd be pumped to meet the stars in real life, right? That's so cool.
Yeah.
You know what you've done? And I didn't even connect the dots until just now. You've done what everyone's been saying in B2B for like a decade now. Like you have to create a media company. Like, you know how we've been sick of hearing that? You've done that, but we haven't said that term at all on this call because it's the innovative way of doing it, right? Like I've been talking a lot lately about webinars. I love webinars. I will die on the hill. They've been a biggest lead gen for me.
Die on it.
Every
it
position. Yes. But it needs a rebrand. It's almost, this is a parallel for me, right? Like this, you need to build your own media company as a brand. How about you create a media hub make your own Netflix of XYZ and build that category out. Kudos on doing that in a way that doesn't make us eye roll.
I love that. Yeah, marketers, we can certainly brand things a lot. And I think we've just tried to spend more energy on the work and the learnings. And now it seems to be called like owned media. And I'm like, okay, I'm good with that. I don't care. I don't care what we call it. But I do think it's cool that we call it something and we talk about it and we can learn from each other. And maybe marketers start to look at it as a strategic opportunity, because I don't know that there's going to be like multiple media hubs or media networks that thrive in one category. I think there's probably going to be one leader in each category. So that's my FOMO. to make people act.
Yeah. I love it. Yes. And I love everyone. She posted about this too on LinkedIn. Check out Katie's LinkedIn and all the knowledge she's dropping in her posts. Just follow her right away. But you mentioned that is a great way to get exec buy-in. So anybody who wants to create something like this in your own space and wants to collect content and build this hub, and also helps you build your relationships with these B2B influencers, the best way to do so is creating FOMO, like you just said. So like you want to be that first mover's advantage everywhere. Like just get out there. And that's your argument. So love that. One last question. I'm sorry, we are over time, but we could make this a whole series of how to create this. But what would you, if you could go back in time and see yourself just graduating school, and you got a taste of this bigger world out there and then came back to Canada, what would you tell your younger self, knowing and experiencing everything that you have since?
The only thing that I would want to tell myself would be something that would maybe make me feel less anxious through the process of it all. Because I think where I've landed, like everything I've ended up doing is great. I wouldn't change my course in any way. I would just probably want to be like, have less stress throughout the whole thing. So I'd probably just say something along the lines of just trust that taking the leaps and tackling what's challenging will get you where you want. And don't spend so much time existentially worrying about what you're doing.
Yeah,
that's
so
it.
true.
Yeah.
Trust it and take the risks. And I think you've said this too, that when you are scared and you're worried about the first release and the launch of the Compete Network, right? That when it first came out, you were freaking out, but that fear means that something big is about to happen. So
yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just
it.
like chase fear, like chase that feeling.
I love that. So many stickers we got to make, Katie.
Oh my God.
Fuck it energy and chase the fear.
I love
Thank you so much for sharing your process with us and how you launched this hub and your own media hub. And just thank you. I feel like there's so much knowledge that you shared, and literally steps that people can go and take and start scrappy and start building. So thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me. Thanks so much.
Yeah. Welcome anytime. And thank you everybody for listening. If you like the show, enjoy the show, share with a friend, give us a rating, give us a review. It all helps us get in front of more folks. So thank you. Have a good day.
Bye.